Welcome to Blind Shovel, an arts and music podcast. Today I have the pleasure of sitting down with Kevin Umaña, ceramicist and fine artist. Enjoy. How you been?
I've been good. Just working away every day. Trying to, get shit done and going through some transitional things in life. Yeah, how you been?
I'm all good. So you're at a residency, right?
Yeah, I'm in residency in Helena, Montana.
Fascinating. I hear good things about Montana, actually.
Dude, Montana is absolutely gorgeous. There's
That's what I hear.
just big open skies. You're around nature. You see wildlife every day. You're able to focus and just get work done. And everyone's nice. And yeah,
So what's that residency all about?
it's called Archie Bray. Yeah, I think the Archie Bray Foundation. It's like a pretty prestigious ceramic residency. It's been around for over, I think, 70 years. And it's in like an old, like an old campus where they used to make bricks for,
Oh, nice.
yeah. So they have like beehive kilns and all sorts of kilns and a lot of like, great ceramicists have attended the Bray.
And so you're just there chilling and working as hard as you can.
Yeah, I'm here for the whole summer.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm just in the studio every day, like, probably 8 to 12 hours. And
How many hours do you think you spend working actively on something in those 8 to 12 hours? Realistically speaking.
realistically, I think I might take maybe 2 hour breaks. So like I'm probably on my phone, either on my phone or eating for like 2 hours or drinking a beer, like two
Okay.
to 3 hours. Yeah. So I would say definitely 5+ hours on working on things.
And you're working on these combination painting ceramic objects.
Yeah. I'm doing that. I'm doing all these like hybrid paintings and these sort of like I guess you can call them tiles, but I call them like tablets because they're just kind of like paintings on flat surfaces of clay. But I'm also uh, experimenting with building like large vessels while I'm here, just because
Yeah, why not?
they have all these like gas kilns and large kilns that I don't have access to. So a lot of the other residents are working big and they all work 3-dimensional. So I think as soon as like the first day I got all my materials and I just got inspired to work 3-dimensional instead of paintings. But I'm still doing my paintings. I'm just, as those things are drying, I'm working on these 3-dimensional objects.
Right on. And you're kind of on this residency tear, right? Like you got a bunch of residencies. You got another one coming up at a word I can't pronounce.
Yeah, I have one at Sharp Lentes in Brooklyn. It's in Dumbo. That's coming up. And then I have the Albers Foundation. And then I'm in the process of applying to other ones for next year.
So you enjoy this bouncing around
I wouldn't say enjoy. Uh, I think for the past 3 years, I've been grounded in Kansas City, Missouri,
Hmm.
and and then uh, I went through a breakup, and I was like, you know what? Um, I should figure out where I want to live. And so I started applying to a bunch of residencies that were in different cities. And so far, I'm trying to get used to being a vagabond. And all my stuff is in storage. Uh, but I feel like for the next year or two, I have to get used to it. I'm not used to it yet.
You don't like being a nomad? Is it natural or unnatural?
It's unnatural. I mean, I love like moving city to city, but I think as I'm getting older, I'm just like, I just want to feel like some place is home. And I have you know, I want to feel like I can have people over for dinner or just have like my art collection up in display and just feel like at home. So, but right now it just feels like I'm living out of a suitcase.
Right.
Yeah. But it's kind of liberating, you know. I think it's nice that I'm feeling uncomfortable because it's allowing me to do a lot of things that I typically wouldn't do.
Well, what do you call home? What is the closest thing to home you've had in your entire life?
Damn, that's so tough. I would say home right now is Kansas City. Um,
Are you from
and
there?
I'm not from there. I just lived there for 3 years, but
Hmm.
it's I've met like amazing people there, and that's where I got introduced to ceramics. And but home for me, home. I mean, I'm originally from Los Angeles, so I'm a California boy my whole life. Uh, but you know, LA's big. It's changed so much since growing up there, and I feel right now Kansas City has been pivotal in my development as a human being.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you run a space there as well, right?
I used to.
Oh, really?
I Yeah, I used to. Not anymore. I think I kind of shut it down last fall. It just became, you know, running a space. I mean, as you know, you did it. It
Hmm.
just becomes complicated, and you get to devote so much time to it, and it's hard to balance your professional, personal life, and it's hard to, you know, as an artist, it was hard for me to work on my own stuff when I'm trying to elevate other artists and you know, get their works out there. And I kind of put my own work on the back burner.
Yeah.
But soon as I kind of decided to take a break, my art career started taking off, and I just started getting busy, and I just didn't have time to devote myself 100% to running a gallery.
What do you think you learned from running a space like that?
Oh man, I learned so much. I learned what the shit that galleries have to deal with
Right.
artists.
Exactly.
Um, I learned how to write a proper exhibition statement. I learned how to document work. I learned how it works when it comes to like selling work, and how to you know, advertise a show, how to conceptually bring a show together, and how to curate it in a way where it doesn't benefit you, but it benefits like the viewer. Like how do you tell the story to the viewer where anyone could understand it? But also like the logistics, man, like the shipping, the all
Yeah.
these things that artists don't really think about. Um, I had to deal with just because it was like a one person show.
So you learn to empathize with the gallerist in
Oh
some
yeah,
sense.
definitely.
Yeah,
I
I feel the same way.
Yeah, like how to be punctual, man. Like every artist should be punctual because shit, like
Are you punctual?
Yeah, I mean, as soon as like my gallery writes to me, I try to write back ASAP. And if they need like photos, I try to get those photos documented and sent to them. I don't want anyone waiting on me because sometimes you are waiting on the artists and it just doesn't, it's, I don't know, I just like being on time and, doing all the paperwork and just making
Yeah.
sure that all the, uh, all the ends are tied.
So having seen both sides of it, what do you think's the most like if you had to give advice to a young fine artist, would it be as mundane as that? Just be on time, be reliable, respond to emails from galleries, etc. Once you make that connection, try to maintain it in the most kind of professional way possible.
Yeah, just be as professional as you can be, man. I like when I was running the gallery and I was trying to curate a bunch of like New York artists and LA artists and like some local artists, and I would reach out to some local like young artists that just got out of school and they wouldn't even respond to like my emails of like, hey, can I do a studio visit? Or like, hey, can you like send me your CV or information? They would like they would think it's cool to be like
Yeah,
unprofessional. Like
exactly.
it was so strange because it's like, why do you want to seem immature? And I'm not like a big curator. I'm not like I wasn't an important gallery, but it made me feel like I don't want to work with you. And I'm gonna tell my friends not to work with you because you are not professional.
Yeah, I think for me, it's this realization that once you step into the gallery space, it's an admission that you're stepping into a business framework and you should act as such. If you don't want to play that game, that's fine. Just don't get involved with galleries. I remember making paintings for what was before part two was called part two. I'm
Mhm.
blanking on the name because there was a couple names.
Like Code V or something,
Yeah, yeah.
or Ath
And
and B.
Athens B was the second
Yeah,
iteration.
yeah.
And I had this mentality because I was a brat. Um, like I'm gonna make the biggest, most unsellable paintings. And Sorel, who was running the gallery at the time, was like, "Are you sure you want to make paintings that big?" Having
Hmm.
he knew like what would sell and what wouldn't, and I was like, "Yeah, I do." And of course, they didn't sell. I enjoy those paintings, but it was kind of a selfish act in a context where essentially I'm working collaboratively with a business, and I should have been more mindful of that. Um, I don't think there's room for that kind of antagonistic behavior within the gallery collaboration. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah. I mean, my key now is to be as transparent as I can be. Like I remember some artists would uh, give me like a slight remark about like, oh, you weren't able to sell any of the works. And for my response was like, I can only do so much. Like I only have a few clients I can reach out to you. You have to meet me halfway. Like if you're not doing any app marketing, if you don't have any collectors, I can't convince like some Joe Schmo to collect some, I don't know, some kid. Um, and also like it's a business. Like if you want to make money as an artist, like you have to be able to provide the commodities that can sell.
Yeah. And was that working in Kansas City?
No, it was really tough, man. It was extremely tough, and I didn't have the mindset that I was gonna like make bank off of this gallery. I just kind of wanted to introduce like certain artists to the world and like give artists opportunity to have solo exhibitions in a small artist run space. And there are a couple of collectors in Kansas City that would support us, but it wasn't enough to pay the rent. And so most of the time, the rent was coming out of my own pocket, and so I was kind of going broke running the gallery. And but there are like a lot of collectors in Kansas City. The only issue is that um, they're wealthy people. They have art advisors. They usually collect artists who are on the market or galleries from New York or LA where they know it's a great investment. There's like
Right.
the backing of a prestigious gallery that I think it was our market was more like young collectors, and
Yeah.
but it was great, and I got introduced to amazing people. It just wasn't bring me. I was just struggling with financially because I was just going broke trying to run a business.
Yeah. I mean, I think part of the problem is like you're trying to run a business while maintaining a certain art integrity in a market where
Mhm.
people are really judgmental. I remember trying to explain to my friend who I just met randomly on the street one day, who's like in marketing, like you can't have 50% off sales. You know, he was trying to like help me. Like, what if you had a 20% off paintings? I was like, it doesn't work like that. You know,
Yeah,
like you would lose your reputation would be ruined forever.
yeah,
So you're trying to run a business in this really buttoned up. I mean, it's almost a system that's designed where you, if you don't have a ton of money to start, you're pretty much just not going to be able to figure it out. And that's why interesting galleries that are run by artists tend to last 2 to 3 years, I think. It's
hmm
like the threshold of, well, just losing the money, but also I think you kind of gain the benefits you need from a learning, from
hmm
an educational perspective within those 2 to 3 years. Like what we're talking about, I think
yeah,
you probably get within that time frame. Did you run it for 2 to 3 years?
yeah. I ran it for like, um, I think I started like maybe 2019,
Hmm.
and then ended like 2021.
Yeah.
Uh, Wait,
Like,
2021? No, 2022. Ended 2022. And so I learned so much. I mean, I love it. Uh,
you think you would do it again?
I would do it again.
Yeah.
I would do it again. I think I would have to have I have a different mindset now. And so like,
Where would you do it if you did it again?
man, I don't know, New York, maybe New
Yeah.
York. Like I would say let's start instead of like, my ambition was to make an art market in Kansas City, like a middle of America where it doesn't get any like limelight. And I realized that you can't you can't like force New Yorkers or Californians to like, hey, pay attention to us. And so I kind of have to go with the market is, and it's probably New York and LA, but LA is too sparse, and so probably New York. New York, yeah.
Yeah. That makes sense. I think sometimes, even from my perspective in suburban New Jersey, it's like there's only so many battles you can fight at once, you know,
Yeah,
in
yeah.
business. And you should really pick like one. Um, and you end up picking like five, and the obvious occurs. You know, there's something very humbling about running a business that I saw great value in that.
hmm
And you get humbled in a way that I think making art doesn't quite do it. It's very objective when you're failing. So I enjoyed that. I don't know if I would do it again, but I am considering it.
Yeah.
Um, but how do you think that helped your practice once you ended that? I know you said you had more time to do it, but I think that can be good where you kind of take this break from your personal work and you learn the practical side of it. I think you can, I'm assuming, approach things much more professionally and much more efficiently after that experience.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely learned how to take cohesive photo documentations off of that. And then I think I learned how to write about my own work. Um, I'll do I it affected all my work in the logistic manner, and so how to properly, come up with a contract or a lease agreement or condition reports. I don't think, and also, the fact that I curated a lot of amazing artists from all around the world, I got to see certain artists' works up close. I got to handle it. I got to see the materiality, um, how they ship their works, um, how they present their own works or how they even talk to other galleries. So in the learning aspect, I learned a lot about how to be a good artist just because I would be taking from a lot of other artists. And, granted that not every artist I worked with were as professional as others, but the ones that were really professional really stood out. And so um, I just kind of learned. I'm always been like a professional artist. I learned how to be a bit more polished
Hmm.
now. Hmm.
And when you're writing about your work, what are you seeking to do? I mean, I know writing about abstract work can get, I think, quickly dangerous in some
Hmm.
ways
Hmm.
because, well, there's a big difference between an abstract painting and a written text. So,
Hmm.
what is a successful artist statement for you? What does that look like?
Um, being as genuine and brutally as honest as you can be, and not trying to sound all like a pseudo intellectual and try to be as descriptive and as you can be. And I mean, I don't, it's so hard. I
The
think I
reason I
just
the reason I ask is
yeah.
like I think, well, there's artist statements that undermine the work, especially when it's abstract, when they're trying
Hmm.
to, like you're saying, I think the problem is when you're trying to stuff way too much conceptual or intellectual information into a
Hmm.
painting that frankly doesn't have that within it.
Hmm.
And so it gets fluffy really quick.
Yeah. I
But
mean,
I'd be curious from your work. I don't know if it how it changed after running the gallery. If when you were in college, I believe you were always interested in abstraction, at least
yeah.
since I've known you. If you had moments of putting on that hat of like you, I mean, we could use the word pretension. It's kind of boring to say, but just like trying to put too much into a
Hmm.
painting that maybe didn't carry that much.
Yeah. Now for me, like everything I mentioned in my artist statement, I'm actually doing in my works. And so I think when I'm in the process of making artworks, I'm constantly writing about it. I'm constantly, um, documenting my references that I use and um, like actually have each piece. I also just work in series. And so like I only work in in this sort of multiple pieces at one time. So
Mm-hmm.
it's all cohesive instead of like, oh, this is about beaches. Oh, this one's about like farm life. It's everything. It has this sort of conceptual idea behind it. And so I think before I even start creating, I have to come up with the idea of what I'm going to create. Whereas before it would be, um, each piece was individual, uh, like from the other ones, and they're kind of set. I don't know. It's just now they're all like cohesive and conceptually a whole series, and they have meaning behind it. And my works are like, from the general viewer, like abstraction, but pretty open ended. There's a lot of references to things in the natural world in there, and my titles kind of explain most of the works. The I guess the subject matter in the artworks.
I was about to say the titles seem to
Yeah, they
give
change.
that. Oh,
Yeah,
totally. Like, you mean they change the way you view it?
yeah, they totally changed the way we view it. But as I just started putting so much thought process to the titles, like maybe a year ago or 2 years ago. Um, because before, I like one thing I hate, or one thing that I don't really like so much is when I see like abstract artists and their titles are like untitled number 34 or untitled something. I'm just like, well, then you don't know what your work's about. Like you have, I don't know, like I love the minimalists, but the fact that, you know, they were all about like, I want to be as cold as machine like, and separate myself from my own works. But it's like, no, every artist puts a lot of emotional or logical thought into their own pieces. And so the fact that you just call it untitled is just like kind of like a slap in the face sometimes.
Oh, I mean, I don't know if it's a given that every artist does that, but
Yeah, no.
I do agree that what's interesting about your work is that it does give a lot more, in my opinion, than a lot of abstract work, whether that's color, texture. I mean, the ceramics, I definitely think was a big step up in terms of texture, and for me, just visual interest. But also the titles, I think, are very generous.
Yeah, they're definitely generous for sure. And I try to encourage the people to look at the works and then maybe look at the item sheet, because I want the viewer to come up with their own perspective, um, and actually make the viewer think before they're even being told what it is. And so I don't know. I think because I just started writing more, I started using titles as this sort of um, poetic inclusion into the work. Like,
Well, if I understand correctly, too, you're kind of design minded. And so I think that kind of way of thinking might explain why you approach the work that way, as opposed to untitled.
Yeah.
That, like there's nothing there. I imagine you iterate a lot and you actually are very thoughtful in the production of these works that might appear more intuitive on the surface. Is that accurate?
No, that's definitely accurate, man. It's like, just like it has like an architect, how they would design a building or a home. It's like every aspect of the design has a purpose. And I always try to iterate that when it comes to my own work, because like everything has a purpose. Like the fact that I make my own panels, that the fact that the edges are curved, that the fact that I use different materialities, different mediums, different techniques, the titles, even the size of the canvas, or everything, every aspect of the work is strategized and planned out ahead of time.
Now, that doesn't necessarily mean if I asked you about everything, you would have a rational response, right?
Maybe. I don't know.
You think so?
No,
like this shape, this. I mean, the reason I say that is just because you say it has a purpose or quote unquote a function, I assume a lot of the decisions are intuitive. So if I was like, why is that purple next to that blue? I doubt you would be like, well, it's because.
I mean, that's just, and a lot of things I have I can't explain. It's just like, when it comes to color, it's just whatever feels good to me. I don't read, color interaction books. It's whatever my eye likes. And, and it's when it comes to ceramics, it's, for me, what I love about it is I'm not able to control it. So it's not only me making the work, it's like me in the kiln and like and chance making the work. So like a lot of the shapes when it comes to the ceramics, it's just happens in chance. It's like very organic. I guess it is intuitive, but like how it behaves in the kiln when it's firing, I can't control that. And that's what I love about it. It's like I've like relinquished control.
No, I think that's a great thing especially for analytical minds. They need a process or medium that gets in their way in some sense.
Yeah.
Doesn't allow the micromanagement, the control freak to come out. And that's why I think for me I met you first, you were doing just paintings, I believe. And then when I saw the ceramics, that jumped out to me as a big shift. It's really interesting to me how just a medium shift can change everything. It's not that the compositions were dramatically different. But for me, it was probably something as simple as the edges being more organic.
Yeah, man. At first I had so much difficulties accepting those edges and how the glazes were behaving because like for me, I was like, this isn't hard edge. This isn't like exactly what I wanted. This isn't
Yeah, yeah.
mathematically aligned to my 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 values. And then I had them on the walls, and the person I was dating at that time were like, these are great, these are like amazing. And then it took me a while to really uh like them because I think my analytical brain was telling me uh this isn't mathematically right. and
Yeah, yeah.
and then the edges, I mean, they do their own thing, and it's hard to replicate them. It's really hard. It's um but I love them now. Now I can only work that way.
Yeah. Do you actually love them? Like when you make them, you love them?
I do. I can honestly say every piece, like I had a solo exhibition in January, and I couldn't give you a favorite one because I love them all. Like it's so crazy that everything I make I'm like in love with.
But was that
Um
always true?
no, no, it wasn't. There'll be times where like you'll do a sketch and all you have to do it's like enlarge it onto a canvas, and it just kind of felt boring. It felt like repetitive. There wasn't any surprises. And now now I'm able to work very loosely and create these works. Obviously I have some paintings where I'm like, well, I will never show this in the gallery, but if I do show it, I fucking love it.
Was there a particular moment where that shift occurred? Was it when you embraced
Ceramic.
ceramics? Yeah.
Yeah, when I embrace ceramics, when I embrace the hybrid paintings, when I started like implementing ceramics onto canvas,
And
because I
how
was
long did it take you to arrive at that? Like, at what age did you find that?
um, the first one I showed was in 2021, and it was at a in the solo exhibition in Harlem uh, in 2021, and that one was in the studio for a year, and I decided to show it and just to see the reaction of people, and they liked it. And then I took a break from it, and then I did one for Boston, and then I did one. My third one I showed at Sperone Westwater last summer in a group show, and that's when and they were still in the works. I was still trying to figure out what they were about, but the owner pulled me aside and like uh, was asking me questions for like 40 minutes, and we were just talking about them, and they really took to them, and I felt like I think the owner of Sperone Westwater was like the first one who really fell in love with them, and it was great to hear because like for a while I was that was my third one I make, and so I was just still very insecure about them, and they kind of encouraged me to like investigate it a bit more. So
Nice.
I think from the first one was May 2021, and then now that's mostly what I'm making now.
Yeah. And so in 2021, how old were you?
Um, we're at 2023, 33, so like 2 years younger. So 31.
Yeah, yeah. The reason I ask is it seems like this feeling of actually beginning to enjoy the work you make takes at least, I don't know.
10 plus years, probably.
I think so. I'm suspicious of anyone who's been doing it for 2 years and I love their work.
Yeah.
I'm very suspicious.
Yeah, you're still figuring it out. And like anyone who's just started for 2 years And I don't know, it's like an evolution, man. It's, you have to teach yourself. And like my main purpose is like, how do I set myself aside from a Picasso impersonator, or like someone that's like similar to another artist? And so I wouldn't be content with my work if I'm just started. Because like, things are derivative of everything. And this is like the first time where I'm like, oh, I actually never seen something like this before.
Mm-hmm.
And
You mean in your own work?
In my own work, yeah. And so
who would you have seen within your work in the past? Like, if someone in bad faith were to accuse you of being derivative when in your 20s, who do you think they'd be pulling out?
Man, a lot of people that I got were like, when I was making shape paintings, it would be like Frank Stella. And then when I was making like gouache paintings, it would be like, people from the Memphis group.
Sure. Ellsworth Kelly probably at times. Right?
Yeah, Ellsworth Kelly. I was a big fan of Ellsworth Kelly.
I watched a documentary on Kelly a long time ago, and I was shocked at the kind of the references he was using to make certain black and white paintings.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of demystified the whole thing for me, but it kind of it made me interested in his process more than the work for me.
Yeah.
Again, a danger that the artist statement can has to play with. But once I saw his references, I was like, oh. So
that makes sense.
I'm just looking at that thing because for me, I don't really, abstraction is not my thing. But when I do enjoy it, it's because I escape the kind of categorical mind I tend to have, where I want like symbolic clarity. So seeing that reference was a little shocking, unless I'm misremembering. I think it was Kelly.
Yeah, no, I think his early black and white ones, especially the ones that he made after the war in Paris, it was a lot of them were like referencing windows or shadows, and I think he was like the artist who kind of abstract artist who introduced me to like changing how we view the world, like how we can depict certain observations in a more abstract way, instead of like, if I paint a nude, I don't want to paint it realistically. I want to paint it in a way where it's like a different perspective, a different view. Like, I really love the Cubists and how they are able to like shift different perspectives and like combine them in one. But yeah, Kelly did that. And like, after reading his like book, I was like, oh yeah, you're right. Like, it's all like from observation. Most of them were all from observation.
Yeah, I suppose that's where it has to start, to have some kind of substance. But when did you enter into the abstract mode? Was that college, or you were always interested in abstraction?
No, I entered it towards like my last couple of weeks of college. Like, I did a print, like, because I graduated as a printmaker, and I did this like certain print. At that time, that print still had like some sort of like foxtail in it, but that was their transition towards like abstract work, because I was using certain like color blocks or to make a different vocabulary, I guess, like a different way to depict what I want the viewers to see.
And did you feel it difficult to individuate yourself in the abstract mode early on? And by that I mean, a lot of abstraction can look similar in some sense, because you're dealing with like foundational form.
No, I mean, no, I wasn't. I was learning from other abstract artists, and it was so hard to set myself aside, because like we said, like the first 2 years I would not be happy with my own work, because it's not as original as it could be. And I had to practice a lot on my work in order to develop over time. And so a lot of the artists that I was looking at were influencing my work. And now I can't say if I look at a lot of work. I do like love my friends' works and support them intensely, but I don't ever look and be like, oh, I want to depict this way and I want to use a soft edge.
Do you mean in the sense of you've gathered the fundamentals of your inspirations, so you're kind of less interested in mining surrounding? Yeah, I think this is a hallmark of being 30 as well. Like I don't even, but maybe I'm in a different place. I just like I don't know when the last time I went to a museum is or an art show, because it's not a social thing for me in New Jersey. And I do feel, especially with the speed of information these days, like I feel like I've seen a lifetime of art and I'm just going to spend the rest of my life processing that. And to do anything else would be overwhelming almost.
Yeah. And like right now I'm like so excited about my own work and I have so many things I want to work on that I can't like before I used to like deviate from shape paintings and then like paperworks on paper and then canvas and now I'm like honed into this whole body of work that I'm working on now, and I don't feel like I have to go to a gallery or a museum to find inspiration, because now it's I can find it in what I do. And
does it scare you a little bit that it's not that you're comfortable, but that you're content with the work?
I wouldn't say comfortable or content, because I'm constantly trying to push my own boundary, like I'm constantly trying to evolve. I'm just now, the only difference between me and past Kevin is that I'm not doing it in a more drastic way, like I feel like I have developed my own style, my own vocabulary, and I want to, if I do deviate from what I do with the hybrid paintings, I still want it to be recognizable that it's me, and that's why I'm doing like these like ceramic vessels in this Archibray residency. And I'm still trying to figure out, okay, how can I make these as different as my hybrid paintings? So it's like, instead of these just being ceramics, it's like, how do I do the same things I do with my hybrid paintings and implement that into these vessels?
Right. Yeah, I mean to imply that I think in our 20s, insecurity almost drives you forward. It's like the fuel,
Yeah.
And then when you're 30 and you start liking your own work, some other fuel has to appear for it to keep growing. Because you could imagine if someone became successful and a ton of money started coming in, they might start looking towards other parts of life, I think, to enjoy and just ride that shit out. Now, I'm not saying you're doing that at all.
No.
But it's an interesting, like, there's this idea sometimes that good art comes out of suffering.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, like, beyond just like typical suffering of life, which is normal, like a real darkness is necessary. I can't imagine you subscribe to that.
No, to be honest, like I went through a bad breakup, like right before my solo exhibition, so like in December. And it took me 3 months to get back in the studio, because like I thought that the body of work that I made for the solo exhibition was all driven from the turmoil of the the fall of my relationship. And so for a while I was like, oh, I was so scared to get back into the studio. And took me 3 months to like, oh, okay, I still have my groove. I still have my mojo. Um, and I don't thrive on like this sort of like, I don't know, turmoil.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like now I just feel like constantly fueled by the fact that I want to make all these paintings that I want to do. Like, I feel like time is against me, and I want to make as much work as I can, or just get it out as much as I can. Because my brain is just like constantly like producing these things, and I want to just like get it out. It's like you want to express yourself, like you want to sing at the top of your lungs, kind of thing.
Well, that's beautiful.
But it's like I feel so ambitious to get in the studio and work every day, and I don't, I think going through that tough time kind of it helped me out. As much as sad as it was like the best thing to happen to me in my life. But
that's usually how it goes,
Yeah, you got to make best of the situation. But no, yeah, no, like I think I'm just like so ambitious now. I feel like now that I'm self-employed, I'm able to like work on my own works as much as I can.
So your work is sustaining you?
Yeah. I can't go out there and buy a yacht, but I can live lavish. I can't live lavishly, but I can like live comfortably, and continue making the works and buying the materials that I have to make. And I don't know. I don't go out much. I just go to the studio.
Right. Well, and to be able to go to the residency,
you
need, you can't be working during the residency, so you do need to be financially stable in some sense, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, pretty much. And the fact that I don't really have, like, all my stuff is in storage, so I don't have double rent to pay. I just had to pay rent for one place. And if I get accepted to a residency, I don't have a studio I have to pay. And so I can figure out where my money's going to go and dedicate my time and money to that one thing.
This is just such a stupid question, but how are you attaching the ceramics to the canvas?
I don't want.
No.
I mean, I can. It's just
no. Maybe you don't always want to tell all the materials on.
Yeah, I have so many people asking me that, and
that's why it was a stupid question.
Yeah,
don't tell me that.
I've told one professor, and then they told their whole class, and then the professor sent me like some of the students that got inspired by my work, and they kind of like learned how I adhered it to the canvas, and I was like, oh, cool, this is amazing. Completely different, but I was like, okay. I don't know. How I learned how to adhere it is, I guess, like doing handyman work. Yeah.
We're talking construction adhesive.
Construction adhesives. Yeah.
Just still trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
No, I think it's good to know. But you don't want to write, for instance, if you use construction adhesive, I don't think you'd want to write it on the material list. It's not a good look.
Yeah.
You got to keep it tight. Keep it tight.
Well, if you look at my material list, my descriptions of my artworks, it has almost everything I use. But yeah, I'm still learning the whole what the work's all about, and so like materials come into hand a lot. So I'm constantly at different stores trying to figure out, okay, how can I implement this material into the works?
We talking Home Depot or like an art store?
Everything, man. Like thrift stores, Home Depot. I don't do Home Depot as much, but like art stores, like sculpture stores, paint stores. I sometimes I just go into the art store and look. I walk through all the aisles trying to see like, oh, this is interesting. I've never worked with this. How can I teach myself how to work with this? And I think I was talking to someone. It's like I'm constantly implementing different techniques and mediums into the works, and I'm also teaching myself how to use those things. So I'm always like learning as I'm making these works, and I think that's why it's so exciting to make these works because I never feel stagnant. I'm always like discovering new things as I work, I work on them.
Yeah. And from a scale perspective, are they all about the same size?
They're all roughly the same size. Yeah, like 13 and a half by 16 and a half, 18 by 24. I think last month I made my first like big one. And that one is, I believe, 4 feet by 3 feet.
Is that something you want to push more? Or do you like the small, intimate work?
I like the small, intimate work. I think there's something about it. They're definitely more devotional, like they're more intimate, more. I feel like I love that the viewer has to get up close to actually view the details. And like the thing that I hear the most, it's like, oh, this translates so much better in person than in photos because you can really see the materiality and like the weavings of the canvas and all these details that it's hard to translate over the web or no, I like the small works. I just kind of wanted to see if I was able to work big.
Yeah.
And I'm still waiting to hear what my gallery thinks, but I think it's like, the people who I have had over my studio, they're like, they love the big one. It's just, it's tougher. It gets very heavy at that size.
Oh, are there ceramic components?
Yeah, just the whole thing, the whole panels, the ceramics. It's just it's a lot of work to work big with ceramics just because like my kiln that I was using was a certain size, and so if I have to work bigger, I have to like figure out how to put it in a bigger kiln and figure out how to like roll the clay
right
in a large format where it doesn't crack or it doesn't warp. And like there's all these like, I'm constantly talking about the painting part, but the ceramic part's like the most, that's what takes the longest. It takes months, even maybe weeks, but like to dry, to fire it, to glaze it, to make sure it's not cracking, it's not warping, there's no like defects.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And when you were a young child, what did you think you were going to be? What was your identity?
Oh, I wanted to be an archaeologist.
Geologist.
I wanted to be an archaeologist so bad. I remember digging in our backyard, and then and like finding like tiles, like ceramic tiles, in like deep in the dirt, and it must have been like from a previous remodel home. But for me, I was like, oh, this is pure historic. This is like Asian. And I don't know what got me. I think I was really into Egyptian hieroglyphics.
Interesting.
And I was like, oh, cool. I want to be an archaeologist.
So this all makes sense. The clay. I feel like it makes sense.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It makes sense. Like, I think when I really fell in love with ceramics, like in 2020, it's like when my mom told me that she made ceramics, and and so I felt like clay has always been embedded in like in our family tradition without even noticing it, and so they had this like mystic quality to it. I was like, oh, maybe I was meant to work with clay, and
Of course.
yeah, so it had this like certain quality to it.
I mean, you probably were meant to work with clay
Yeah,
because you are.
maybe. Yeah, yeah. I mean, man, I'm obsessed. I'm obsessed with it now. Uh, New fascination.
You think you'll just do it for the next 5 decades? Is it that deep?
I think I can, but I'm also like always trying to evolve, always trying to find something new I can play with.
Well, yeah, the way I see it is once you find it's like a marriage now, it sounds like to me, like you found your medium, you can evolve within that relationship and
Yeah,
you can go infinite places.
totally.
I think that's an interesting thing about artists in their 30s is they tend to have understood their style, and then they're going to use that style as a vehicle for other forms of evolution. But early on, you're just trying to sort out your technical deficiencies, your own identity, and then you can actually, in some sense, have something to say, even if it's via abstraction.
Yeah, like for instance, like My Bloody Valentine, like they're known for their shoegaze guitar sound, but it took them a while to find their voice. They were making like goth, proto goth music, and I think everyone, if you're creative, you just want to find that voice, and sometimes it takes us a long time, and then sometimes it takes people, it's quicker, but it took me, I don't know, 9 years or 10 years to really find my voice, and I feel like I have found it. And it's like a marriage where I do want to continue it, but I also want to spice it up. I want to keep
Sure.
it interesting. I don't want to just do like repetitive stuff.
No, no, of course not.
Yeah, yeah,
Is that what you listen to while making ceramics?
yeah. No, it changes. Yeah, recently, yes, I've been listening to a lot of like Interpol and
Like old Interpol or new Interpol?
yeah, no, like old. I don't know
Like
where
the first two
yeah,
albums, I'm
the
assuming.
first two albums. I've been listening to The Strokes, so a lot of like 2000 music, like the Flaming Lips.
It's funny. I was talking to Cannon Dill about this, and he was listening. He's in a similar place, that era. I forget exactly what he was listening to, but yeah, I mean, I still listen to the Strokes. I stuck with them even through the albums that I think are kind of questionable, because I think when you really like an artist, I don't know, it's not
Yeah,
about liking or not liking it. You're kind of just there for them in a strange sense.
totally. Like, yeah, I've been listening to all the Strokes albums. I just, I in my 20s, I did hear about LCD Sound System, and I was like, but now I'm like, whoa, I get it now. Like my palette has been refined, so I understand it now. I understand the music more, and even like the Flaming Lips. Like, oh my god, there's so much intention that went into it.
Yeah, we sound real old. It's all right.
I know. I mean, like,
It's
I'm
no
used to
problem.
just Um, no, but like, what did I listen to in the studio? It just plays on random. I listen to a lot of things on YouTube, and it generates this playlist for me.
It's not really a question I tend to ask artists, but I think when working with abstraction, it's interesting to know what the artist is marinating in, because I think there's more things are kind of absorbed of the ethereal nature that goes into the work.
Yeah, I do think if you hit like a good groove, you tend to work within that groove when it comes to like music. It's kind of like if you're creating, it's almost like a dance. Like your movements are being implemented though at the beat of the music. And I think at right now at the Bray, we have 10 resident artists in one huge room. And now, like most of the time, I just talk to the other residents. And then I have like my music very, very, very low. And I can still hear like the replacements from a distance, but still conversate and like, yeah, I do think like music plays a big hand in, or just like what your auditorial, what you're listening to.
Of course,
a lot of people now are listening to podcasts. I just can't seem to focus on a really good story and focus on my own work. So I need music.
Right. No, that makes complete sense to me.
Mm-hmm. I used to watch documentaries. I used to watch like historical documentaries because I was like, well, if I'm gonna make work, I also want to learn something. And so I would like,
That's a bit much, I think.
Yeah, it was. I wasn't as productive because I was like, oh, I want to learn about the Mayan civilization, or
right.
I want to hear about the British king who fell under this. I don't know, but now it's like I don't know what I listen to. Mostly Interpol right now.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
It's darker music than I would have suspected.
Yeah, I think it happened. I watched the documentary Meet Me in the Bathroom.
Yeah.
And so now I'm just like, oh man, I remember. I mean, I was like young, but my friends in Kansas City, they had a bar in Brooklyn, like a pretty big one in Brooklyn, and they grew up in that, and they're like my best friends now. So they would tell me stories like, oh, I went to see the Yeah Yeahs, and I'm just constantly asking me questions of like, oh my God, did you meet this person? Like, how was it when this album came out? And like, so it's fascinating right now. I think that's my summer music right now. Yeah.
Good to know. So you got any shows coming up that we should plug?
I have one, I think in November in London.
Mm-hmm.
And then hopefully like the art fairs in New York, like in November in Art Basel, and I'm getting ready to go to New York for my Sharp Lentas residency. I just had a show at Part 2.
And are you more and more comfortable navigating this world of fine art? Does it feel good? Do you feel good?
I feel good. I have a great gallery. I have great support. I have people I can count on to if I get like confused. Yeah, I definitely do. I think background from running a gallery, I think I know how to manage like shipments and how to package certain things. And yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm just getting started. I feel like I'm just getting started in my career, which is a great thing. And I'm like the new kid on the block, I feel.
Which block is that?
The artist block? I don't know. I don't know.
It's good to hear. It sounds like you're in a good place.
Yeah, I'm happy. I'm like, it's great to have the support of Sperone Westwater, man. Makes such a big difference, and like just like a healthy relationship, and the fact that they believe in my work, I'm able to believe in my own work, and it's just like all positive vibes right now.
That's great.
Mm-hmm.
These names are wild. I love them all. Sperone Westwater, Sharp
Walentas, yeah.
Polentas.
Archie Bray.
What are these?
Archie Bray is like,
what are these names? Where are these names from? Where have I been living? I don't understand.
Yeah, I mean, these are the residencies, like I think Archie Bray is like the best ceramic residency, and I was like, I want to apply for that, and I got in. And Sharp Lentas is like a residency I've been applying to for like 7-8 years, and I finally got accepted. And yeah, it's all like great names actually. Now that you mention that, Sperone Westwater, like
They're great names.
two name organizations.
That's good to mention, honestly. People need to hear that you have to apply for residencies like 6 times in a row.
Yeah.
People forget that. They do it once and they're just out. But you got to get that, bust out the Chat GPT, let it write the artist statement, let it keep. I'm kidding.
I think the key for getting into things is be as honest as you can be.
Well, yeah, because lying just doesn't work out in the end.
It doesn't. It's not. It's not genuine. It's not genuine. It's not who you are.
You have to live within the lie once you tell it. It's just exhausting.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if you do it with your work. It's like, I don't know, just go do something else if you want to be disingenuous about making art. There's much better paths in life, and you can make much more money. So if you're going to do this thing, you
got to do it right.
Yeah, you do it all the way.
Mm-hmm. No half-assing. You got to go full ass.
Too cheek. Well, it was good talking to you. I'm glad to hear that you're in a good place.
Yeah, man. Life is good. Life is good.
Music by Dori Bavarsi and Mingja Chen. Next up, we have Panayotis Terzis.